Hello and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kate, and I'm going to be your host today. Welcome to everybody to the presentation, How to Uncover Passion, Reach Potential, and Train Your Team. We're going to go ahead and jump right in a moment, but I do want to go ahead and introduce you to our speaker. Many of you probably already know Chuck Thokey. Chuck Thokey is a sales and leadership coach, author, mentor, and keynote speaker, helping small to large home improvement organizations grow their sales by as much as 50 to 80%. Chuck has the experience and knowledge to meet and even exceed your revenue goals. Chuck is the VP of sales for one of the fastest growing exterior remodeling companies in Ohio, American WeatherTech, operating out of Cincinnati, Dayton, and Columbus. He is also the co-founder of Top Rep, the industry's leading sales training camp for sales professionals, managers, and owners. I'm happy to say that I will see Chuck in person next week for that event. I'm thrilled to have Leap's partner and my friend, Chuck Thokey, join me. Welcome, Chuck.
Thank you so much, Kate. I cannot wait to spend a couple of days with you and so many others there in San Diego next week. It's going to be fun.
It is. All right. Well, Chuck, I'm going to let you take it away from here.
All right. So what I want to start out with and what I was asked to start with is my story. And not too many people ask about my story. And so as I'm going through some of the comments, I'm seeing a lot about roofers. I'm seeing some bathroom remodelers, which is some of my favorites. I actually started in home improvement inside of bathroom remodeling, a company called Bathfitter. But to give you the full story about myself, I've got to kind of jump back to when I was in school, and it kind of goes along with what we're going to talk about today. Being in school, whether it's junior high, high school, and a little bit of college, I was not good at school. I didn't really care much about school. I was more interested, and it's kind of odd. I was more interested in success than I was schooling itself, which truly brought me to the point where I was very unsuccessful. I was very, very ADHD, and back then they didn't have ADHD. They actually it's called EMR, educationally mentally retarded. And now as they've kind of progressed through, now they call it ADHD, which I think that for one, it's a much more fitting name. But it's more or less just you can't keep somebody's attention. And one of my favorite characteristics of a professional sales rep is the fact that they have some ADD. I've studied this for quite some time just because I still have I still have it. Obviously, you don't get rid of it. And, I've never medicated. And so therefore, I'm always 3 or 4 steps ahead of whoever I'm talking to. Sometimes it's hard to focus, but my mind's always going. And when I'm talking to a homeowner, many times I'm 3 or 4 steps ahead of them, which enables me to get ready for what they're going to say. One thing that I've noticed over the years inside of sales is the fact that, when I'm selling somebody or watching somebody be sold, they always do the exact same thing. It truly is, even though in the house, it's always something different. The people that you're talking to are almost identical. So when we use a certain script, I know what the answer is going to be just because the last 300 people had the exact same answer. And so therefore it enables us to be 3 or 4 steps ahead of somebody quite easily. Now, anyway, going through school and getting out, because I was always in learning disabled classes. And so getting out of school didn't take me too long to become a aerospace engineer for a company called Learjet. Now, I traveled around the United States and ended up at Learjet. And long story short, that ended up with the tragedy of 9/11 kind of had us all, displaced a little bit. Went from there, went into Cessna, went into Raytheon. Everybody was laying off at that time. So at that moment, we decided to come back to Ohio. But before I jump into that, while I was at Learjet, one of the things that drove me to love sales is because when you're buying a $36 million jet, one of the things that has to happen when you are taking a test ride to see if this is the jet that you want, you're typically going to take an engineer with you. The sales reps will, for any technical questions. And the engineers hated going, and I absolutely loved it. So I always had my hands up when the need arised to take a test ride. And so I had a blast with that organization, all the stuff that I got to do, all the people I got to meet, a lot of the top, salespeople, whether it's people that came in to buy the planes or the people that I got to visit and talk to every single day that sold for Learjet. And watching these guys, there was a lot of the stuff that they use that I use today. And some of it is just based on first impressions. One of the things I will always remember is that whether they buy from me or not, they will never forget me. And that was by a guy by the name of Jim there at Learjet. He always wore a neon suit. And I always thought it was a little odd. The only time he ever wore this suit is when he was going to meet a client. So we always knew when he walked in with a neon suit that Jim was going to be meeting with a client. And that one day when I'm riding with him and I asked him, what is it with this neon suit? And he told me, he says, they may buy, they may not buy, but they will always remember the day that they met Jim. And so, we take that into what we do even today. We always leave those lasting impressions. And most importantly, that first impression, which we train our sales reps on. And so moving into where I moved back to Ohio, got into sales. I first got into the life and health insurance, just because that just is what happened to be the first thing that popped up. I was very, very good. I was one of the top sales reps for Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and made a great living. And my wife at the time was my wife was very surprised that I was looking to quit. She goes, "You're making great money. You're doing very, very well. Why are you going to quit?" I says, "I am bored out of my mind." I absolutely hated selling insurance. There was nothing fun about it, talking to sick people all day long. And I was through. And so I quit that. And somebody mentioned that, hey, you ought to try mortgage. Mortgage was anything but boring. That was a fun time. What was fun with mortgage is that, I could finance your doghouse if you wanted to at that time. We could finance anything. It didn't even matter if you had an income. That's how easy it was, and how quick we all made money, and so much that we could do. But then again, that thing came to an end. Mortgage, it's not what it used to be, even today. And so as that bubble started to burst, I get this phone call that somebody wanted to interview me for a spot in home improvement, which I was a little leery of, because, with mortgage, it's one thing, all you have to be taught is how to sell money, which is not hard to do. How to sell the one thing that everybody loves isn't that hard. But then when you're talking about remodeling, that was nerve-wracking. I didn't know if I wanted to do that, or if that was something that maybe I should stay away from. But I went ahead and I took the interview, and it went very, very well. And it went so well that he offered me the job for the outside events manager. And that kind of took me back when I was supposed to be there for the sales and marketing director. And I let him know that I was not interested in the events manager position, but I asked him, why is it that you're going to offer me that, but not the sales director? And he says, well, our current sales manager had passed away, and he was 68. And it looks like you're all of about 10 years old. And he was being very sarcastic. Obviously, I was about 28 years old. And, I was just much, much younger than what they were used to. And so he went ahead, he took a chance on me. And I'm glad that he did. And I think he's glad that he did, because I moved into a company called Bath Fitter and was the VP of sales for Bath Fitter for a while. And here's the issue with Bath Fitter is they weren't really big at the time. And one of the things that I noticed, because I've worked with sales teams for quite a while at that point, and one of the things that I noticed was that it was like the friends and family plan. And knowing that it was a friends and family plan, you're either the friend or the family of the owner. which is going to be very, very hard for me, for one, because it's always going to be, I'm going to go back to daddy if they don't like what I have to say. But also they were so comfortable of what they were making and what they were doing that they could really care less about the sale. And so when I learned that their current close rate, and at the time, that's what we focused on, was our close rate. And so the current close rate at that time was right around 23%. And again, within about a year of working there, I worked there for about 6 years. Within about a year of working there, we topped out at about 60 to 65%. And as of today, they're still at that point, but they've grown quite a bit since then. The owner still does not like to go on vacation, because I always waited for him to go on vacation to fire his friends and family. And so he always made it a joke that he was never going to go on vacation again. But again, that was something that once we got the sales professionals in there, we tried to train everybody, and then we realized which ones we could train and which ones we couldn't, which ones that we could work with and move forward with, and which ones we couldn't. And then we made those adjustments. And when we go through this, and the reason why I'm stating this is the fact that you have to start with the right team. You have to treat your sales reps like athletes. And just like any other, and we're going to talk about this a little later, but just like any other sporting event or sporting team, is when you lose, many times you are out coached. And I always recognize that, whether it's I'm leading a sales team or a sports team, I always realize that many times when you lose, when you have a bad month, you are out coached. There are other teams in your area that have a better coach, somebody that was wanting to actually train their people, somebody that wanted to believe in their people and pushed them and made sure that they operated at their potential. And so we have to look at our teams and make sure that everybody on the team deserves to be there. I'm not saying go in and into your team and just start firing everybody, but start to look at your team and realize who needs to be there and who doesn't. And so once we decided who our team was going to be, that company took off very quickly. I mean, almost to the point where production could not even keep up with the production that we were sending over to them. I mean, they had to hire more and more installers as quickly as possible, because we were moving up so fast. And it was all because, and I would love to tell you that, we trained them, and which we did, but we didn't train them any differently than we did before. But once we got that right team, that's when the needle started to move very, very quickly. And so, when we, going through bath fitter and understanding exactly what we needed to do and getting them to where they are, and they're, much, much larger today, obviously. I get this phone call from a company called Able Roof, and that's out of Columbus, Ohio. And this headhunter from Able and Mr. Roof, he chased me for about 6 months, and finally he got tired of chasing me. And he says, "Hey, I'm going to send you an email, and you just need to give me a yes or no." And he sent me the email, and the rest is kind of history. I drove out and met with the owners, the founders, and the investors for that company. And again, they were all looking at me as if I was 10 years old. But again, I was once again the youngest person in the company, or at least in the sales department at that time. And, Able Mr. Roof has always been pretty big. Steve Wow built an amazing company there. And they wanted to bring me in to kind of, take the company much larger. And again, when I came in, they were about 20% on their close rate. And understanding what I needed to do, it only took me 6 months to get them from 20% and up to about 55 to 60% close. And at that time, our NSLI, which is what we went to and where they're still at, and what I still look at today, which is your net sale per lead issued. That's your total revenue divided by the number of appointments, qualified appointments. And so our NSLI at that time was about 2,800, which back then was really, really good. As of today, the NSLI, because of all the price increases and everything that we've done, that has to be in upwards of 3,500 to 4,000. And so, again, when we're looking at increasing the close rate, increasing where we're at as far as our revenue is concerned, and the profit margin, whether it be gross or net, all hinges around our close rate as well as our NSLI. So with understanding, and when I first met with the ownership there, they'd ask me like, hey, what's your plan? And I said, well, first of all, I need to take a look at the team. I need to draft my team. And I'm never in it to fire anybody. I would love to keep everybody on the team. Doesn't always happen. I will say that this last company at American WeatherTech, I haven't had to let anybody go, and they're a great team. I love them all to death. But at Able, what we had to do at that point was really look, and I'd let them know that the issue that we're currently having is that you guys still think you're a roofing company. And she goes, well, we are a roofing company. And I says, well, yes and no. I says, I'm sure that this isn't something you've never heard of before. I'm sure that you've heard of it, is that you are a sales and marketing organization that just happens to sell roofing. And then from there, we need to go to the third level. And she looks at me funny, and I says, we're going to turn this into a training organization. By the time I'm done with this will be Able and Mr. Roof University. And so that's what we did. We trained again. We continuously trained. And when they were sick of being trained, we trained them one more time. We are forever bringing in, our outside trainers, obviously. And I'm sure that all of you do the same thing. You bring in, your vendors. So once into Able Roof, and we were really taken off, is then we realized that the sales system that we were using was a little inadequate. And so, we changed the sales system. We continued to bring in more and more people as we continued to grow. And same thing when we're taking on new locations. We bring people in and we train them very quickly, but they go through a universal or university style training. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. Once I left Able and Mr. Roof, I decided, because on my way home from leaving Able and Mr. Roof, I got so many phone calls. That's how small this business is. I got so many phone calls asking me to come into other people's organizations. And so at that point, I realized that I wanted to go into coaching. And so not only did I go into coaching, but I did go into a few other companies as executives. I went into a company called Bullet Roof, which is a good friend of mine. He actually worked for me for a short period of time. One of the best storm minds that I've ever met. I mean, he, it's Mr. Joe Moneybreak, has a very, very good organization there in Atlanta. And he was about $3 million when I first got there. And by the time I left a year or so later, we were tipping about 18 million. Again, it's about the systems and the people that you put in there. We had to draft our team. And then, of course, coming into a company, right now that I'm working with, which is American WeatherTech, came in and they were pacing about 7 million. And we, from June, when I came in to the end of the year, we closed out at about 12 million. So, I mean, it's about the systems, it's about the people, it's about the training that you put in place. So that's my story in a nutshell. There's a couple of questions that I was asked to answer. And the first one is why doing what you love is important to your success. And I don't think that this one's really hard for anybody. I hated school. There's no doubt about it. I didn't like school. However, once I got out of school and got into something that I liked, I excelled very, very quickly. Whether it was aerospace, which I absolutely love aerospace. I always have since the first day that I saw Top Gun. And so I've always wanted to get my piece of aerospace, which I did. And became the youngest aerospace engineer in the country. And then once leaving that and getting into sales, I really, really enjoy sales. Not only do I enjoy sales, but I see the opportunity. I used to say I saw the opportunity, but I still do. I see the opportunity for anybody to come into this, whether you've been in school, whether you have maybe you've never even finished high school, but you have that drive, you have that ability to succeed. This industry is better than any industry I could ever imagine being in. And I don't care what industry that could be. Whether it's, somebody says, well, maybe it's the insurance, maybe it's mortgage, maybe it's, it doesn't really matter. But inside of home improvement, you can make a better living than most industries in the US. And so that's why I love this, what you can do. And so, inside of what we do as far as sales, understanding sales, how to build a sales team, which is one of the next things that I'm going to talk about. I've always excelled with it. And so I always, sitting in front of somebody, interviewing somebody, I'm going to interview them and find out what kind of ego they have. Obviously, they can have too much ego, somebody that's not willing to learn, but I'm looking for somebody when I sit down and interview them, I'm really looking for a lot of passion. I'm looking for a lot of confidence, something that I can work with, something that I feel, if this person was sitting in my house right now, would I buy from them? And if the answer is no, then you need to keep looking. However, once you're talking with somebody, and that's why I don't like asking people, where did you go to school, any of that kind of stuff, because I don't want that to cloud my judgment. Some of the top sales reps that I work with today are either out of the military. I love working with guys or gals out of the military, or folks that, they're straight out of high school. And now, granted, I don't want to be their first stop. I want them to go and have some experience, but they don't have any more than a high school degree, high school diploma. And so, when we look at, you've got to do what you love. And so I had a post today, and inside of one of the chat rooms using that post, someone mentioned that, you don't have to love your job to be good at it. And you know what? I agree with him. But to be successful, you've got to love it. You got to love what you do. You got to be able to wake up every day and be glad that you have this position. Your sales reps need to be glad that they work for your company. They have to. If you have sales reps that hate your company, set them free. Why keep somebody that doesn't want to be there? And so I hear from people all the time that, I just hate this company. Then go somewhere else. There's a lot of other companies that would love to have you and treat you very, very well. So again, when you're looking at, you have to love your job. You have to love what you do. How do you recognize the passion in your own team to influence success? And this right here, I love this question. I really do. I absolutely love this question. So the first thing, and we just talked about it, which is treating your reps like athletes. So they are the athlete of sales reps in general, whether I don't care if it's commercial or residential, but they are the athletes of the corporate world. They make things happen. I know a lot of production guys don't like me saying this, but you can't do anything until something is sold. And I truly believe that. However, to contradict that, we can't do what we do unless they install a good product. There's a saying that came out of a coaching or a mission meeting that I had with a large company here in Ohio. And, we were just putting Post-it notes up on the board, talking about each individual position or their departments and what needed to happen. Everybody had their say. And one of the Post-it notes said, if there's no mission, there's no position. And it's always stuck with me. And I don't care if this is sales. I don't care if this is admin. I don't care if this is in production. If there's no mission, there's no position. So stop looking at these duties. What are their duties? And you have to pull back on these job. What do they call those? The job postings and the job descriptions. I've always hated that term, job description. For me, they need to be their mission. And I urge you to start calling that their mission. So their mission, and nobody wants to do a job, but man, if they know they have a mission, then they're going to take on that castle. They're going to take on that role like nobody else. But you have to talk in terms of that mission. I don't mean to act like Sergeant Slaughter and let them know that, 10 of you are going in and only 5 of you are coming back. It's nothing more than, helping them to understand that we are all on a mission. Our mission is to go from 5 million to 10 million. It's to go from 20 million to 40 million. And we need you. There's no way that we can do this without your help. We want you in this fight, and we need you in this fight. And here's the things that you can do for us. And so this is their mission, if you will. But as soon as you give people duties, then that's not my job. That's his job. That's not my job. Oh, I can't believe he fell on his face. Man, if that was my job, I would have done it well. Again, the mission is to make sure that the company moves forward. Believing in your team. So when I came into American WeatherTech, there was a sales rep, and I was told about him immediately. And his name is Spence. Spencer is, I love Spencer to death. But what I was told when I got there was that Spencer was the cleanup guy. And when I heard that, I'm like, all right. And they're like, no. Cleanup guy, meaning he'll run the leads no one else wants. I'm like, okay. I've got to meet Spencer now. And so I got a chance to meet Spencer, very nice guy. They mentioned to me that he takes everything with grace. He loves any opportunity that he gets. And in the back of my head, I was like, man, this is a real pushover. But, I like somebody that's willing to take what is given to them and run with it. And so, meeting Spencer, he comes to me and says, hey, I know that you're going to have a big training class with the new people that are coming in. Do you mind if I jump into that training class with you? And I'm like, Spence, man, come on in. I'd love to have you. And I'd like to see what it is that you know. And so we go through this training class. And at the very end of the training, we go into demoing the window. So we sell more windows than anything. And so we're demoing the window. And the last person to demo the window was Spencer. And I said, Spence, why don't you go ahead and demo the window? And I will tell you that he did the best demo I have ever seen. And I've seen thousands of window demos. I've trained, so many different window salesmen. And knowing that I'm sitting here watching Spencer do this, and he gets done with his demo and he says, well, how did I do? And I says, Spencer, man, I got to tell you, that was the best window demo I have ever seen. I wish I was recording it. In fact, we did at a later date. I had him do his demo in front of everybody. And I noticed that it's not that Spencer doesn't know what he's doing. It's quite simply that he just hasn't had anybody believe in him yet. And me telling him that, Spence, man, this is fantastic. I can't wait to, go into the house with you, see what you can do in front of the homeowners. And he went from being the cleanup guy to being, one of the top sales reps. And 2 months in a row, he was the top sales rep. And so, sometimes it just takes believing in somebody and hoping that they believe in themselves as well. It's a mindset game. This whole thing that we do is perception and mindset, and so, just quite simply believing in your team is going to go a long way. And then becoming that training organization. Now, I want you to think to yourself right now, and you don't need to throw anything in the comments about it, but I want you to think to yourself right now, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, is do you have an onboarding process for your sales reps? You should have a complete written out onboarding process. Not only do you have an onboarding process, but do you have an agenda, a 5-day or however many days your sales training is. Now, our training is 3 weeks. So the first week you're going to be with production so that they can teach and train you what we do, what we sell, the products itself. as well as watching it go on. And then the second week, and they've labeled this Hell Week. I don't think it's Hell Week. I love it, but it's sales. There's sales training. And so they go through a full week of sales training. When they do that, there is an entire agenda, day 1, day 2, day 3, everything that we're going to talk about in order of how we're going to talk about it. And so it's not waking up and knowing that you've got the new guy, Billy, and it's like, you know what? I think what we're going to do today is we're going to tackle step number 1, and we're going to see how he does. That's not training a sales rep. You have to understand how sales reps learn, how they can be successful, but also making sure, because that week, so you're going to have your first interview just to get to know them. You're going to have your second interview. That's when you're going to make your decision. But then what I keep getting asked is, Chuck, how do I interview for work ethic? I says, that's in the interview number 3. And they look at me like, interview number 3, sales training. And I let people know that when you go through sales training, that most of most sales reps that go through this make it through and go on to be sales reps. But there are a few, when we find out that you're not willing to do what it takes, then we will probably go ahead and let you go. Again, we want them to understand. We pay in upwards of $400 to $450 per lead, or per appointment, let's say. And so therefore, I'm not going to take somebody that I don't believe in. They're going to go through training and I'm like, man, this guy just isn't going to make it, or this gal just isn't going to make it. I'm going to cut them before I start wasting money on leads. And so therefore, I'm taking them through that on Thursdays when we typically decide if this is the right position for them. Like I said, there's very few that get cut, but there are a few that do. But we do let them know, and we kind of put a fear into them that not everybody makes it through it. We want them to understand how serious we want them to take this. And so, once they get through that training, there's a whole handbook that explains exactly what we do. And so inside that handbook are all their scripts. It's also the lead handling policies, how to work the CRM. It's everything inside of their job, everything. If you're going to leave something out, then that book is not complete. So you need to realize what you're going to put in that book or that handbook. The next thing is writing with your team. If you're going to find out if somebody's passionate, watch them in a house. The other thing is you're going to find out why they're so good or why they're not so good by watching what they do in the house. And so, when you're going to go out and ride with your reps, you want to have fun with the rep. You don't want them to be nervous that you're there. Please let them know that, hey, man, I know you might be nervous because I'm sitting in the passenger seat or going to be sitting, at the table with you. Man, we're just in this to have fun today, man. And by the way, I'm going to buy you lunch or I'm going to buy you dinner for the fact that, you're going to go all day with me sitting next to you. I'm not going to sit here and ask you a ton of questions, man. I just want to go have a fun day. I want to go out and sell something. I don't get to sell very often, man. Let's go out. Let's have some fun. And so that in itself is a proper ride along. Now, when you're done, and if you can take them to dinner, we have a list called a key competency list. This is every competency that a sales rep needs to know, whether it's from, pressing their clothes the day prior, charging their electronics, all the way to understanding every step of the sale, the emotional aspect of the sale, your pauses, getting into the rebuttals, everything that sales rep will ever need to know is on there. And so we're going to go ahead and check off a few if needed. My favorite thing to do is let them know that, hey, man, I don't even need to pull that list out. Dude, you did an amazing job, man. High five. But there are certain times when you're going to realize maybe they skipped the trial close. And then they got caught up in the close because, they did not narrow everything down to money like they were supposed to. Whether they didn't, they jumped into a bunch of stalls and excuses that they didn't know anything about. The customer, God help them that, they says, oh, well, you did a great job. We always like to hear that. You did a great job, but, we're really going to have to think about it. And your sales rep froze. We make sure that our sales reps know that their job doesn't even start until someone says that they need to think about it, that until they get a form of a stall or excuse. I can hire anybody to do everything up front. Now we still train them to do everything right, everything in place. But man, it's, I could hire just about anybody. Like we said, we can hire a monkey to go in there and do a demo and a presentation and do a great inspection. But man, when they get to, hey man, you did a great job, when you start to hear that, now your job begins. This is what you're trained for. And so that's what I mean by, it's a training organization, and you want to ride with your reps to make sure that they're doing everything they're supposed to do in the house. Running proper sales meetings. You can recognize the passion in your people by the person that sits there and says nothing versus the person that's always involved. That's, always got their hands up. They're always getting, their voice heard positively, and so, who's actually, engaged in the sales meeting. When you have a sales meeting, make sure that there's a meaning behind the meeting, and make sure that your meeting is positive. Do not put any house cleaning in your sales meetings. Your sales reps don't want to hear about all the colors that have been discontinued, which is something we're all fighting right now. They don't want to hear that. That's an email. That's something that they should respond to saying, hey, got it. They something where they confirm that they saw that those, that house cleaning has been read and understood. And so that's something that can be, as they say, the meeting that could be an email. That stuff should be in an email of some sort, or hand it out. You can hand it out and say, hey, if anybody, wants to see me about this afterwards, please let me know. But again, your sales meeting has no bearing, your house cleaning has no bearing on being in a sales meeting. Your sales meetings have to be positive. As soon as someone makes a negative remark, it doesn't mean you pounce on them, but you try to turn that into a positive as much as possible. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that you need to be Mary Poppins. If something needs to be said, and there's many times where I'll show my passion, if you will, and let them know exactly, where I stand with something, but ultimately they know that it comes from a very positive place. They understand that I need to make sure that their pockets are full, that their wallet is fat. And so I take it very personally when someone says they can't do this or they don't understand that. So I need to make sure that that they do understand it. But also, when you're in your sales meetings, you want to have the next 10 sales meetings already mapped out as to what the topic is going to be, what it is that you're going to train. And it's okay if the topic is nothing more than then you're going to rehash the last 5 weeks. Hey guys, we're not going to have a new topic. What I want to do is I want to make sure that you understand the last 5 weeks, the stuff that we did. And as on the board right now are the topics for the last 5 weeks. We're going to go back through. We're going to rehash every one of those topics. And again, there's so many different ways of running your sales meeting. Now, you're always going to have the meeting after the meeting. We've seen this where it's the huddle that happens in the parking lot after the meeting. That's the meeting you wish you were in on. That's the one where they're starting to, talk about this or that, things that are going right, things that aren't going right. So I always try to employ somebody to help me out, kind of be ears and eyes, just in case something is said that I need to take care of quickly. And so the next thing that I want to cover is know-it-alls. When you have your sales reps and maybe you go into a new organization, every now and again, you're going to run into the know-it-all. We've all seen this sales rep. The know-it-all is the person that will drive you crazy. You're trying to train them. They're like, yeah, I already know that. I already do that. And my sales reps know better than that. Every company I've ever been in understands that the worst thing you can tell me is I do that already. I will give you a pretty abrupt halt. And I won't say what I say on here, but I let them know that, guys, I really don't care what you know. I'm here to teach you and train you. And until I know that you know this, until I know that I've trained you and that I can see that you know this, my position is that you don't know it. And so those folks that want to talk about, when they come in and they want to talk about why they didn't close a certain deal and like, yeah, I did that. I did all that. Well, if you did that, you wouldn't be in here wondering why you didn't close the job. So again, you have to watch your know-it-alls. You pull them aside. You don't call them out in the middle of a meeting, but you will need to pull them aside so that they can open that mind back up. You have to have a group of open minds. And then, of course, no negativity. Absolutely no negativity. When people want to complain about their leads, I let them come to me, and I let them come to me because I don't want them going to the other sales reps. I let them know the other sales reps will, in fact, let me know if you're going to complain about your leads, because it affects them too. If you're going to pick up the phone and you're going to call Bill and complain about your leads for the day, then you just affected Bill's ability to close deals that day, because you've just implanted how negative your day is. And so that's pretty much what I do in a nutshell. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to open it up for questions if anybody has anything that I can answer.
Thank you so much, Chuck. That was awesome. So we do have a couple questions actually coming in here. Let's just go ahead and get them started. Specifically in roofing sales, do you have any suggestions on how to introduce a salesperson to a commission-only environment as opposed to an hourly wage?
So, when you're bringing somebody into commission only, the way that I position it is the fact that there is pay, and that pay is in the form of leads. Now, if you're going to bring them into a commission only position where they have to knock doors for their leads, that's going to be a little harder. And you need to bring them in and help them to understand the potential. Not only help them understand the potential, but sometimes if you're able to, some companies allow it, some won't. But if you're able to, show them other reps pay. Some of the stuff, you don't need to show them everything they've ever earned, but they need to see proof that there is fruits of their labor, if you will. They need to know that what's at the end of this tunnel that I'm about to enter. But ultimately, if you do provide leads, I explain to my sales reps as they come in, if they do have that apprehension, is I'm like, we do pay you, and we pay you in the form of leads, so that it's not like being a realtor where you got to go prey on all your friends and family. So we get you out there. I'll also tell you that we give statistics that, people will typically earn their first paycheck within the first week of them being out. Sorry.
Awesome. Thank you. I want to real quick, before we keep going with Q&A, if you want to go ahead and add your questions, you can add them to the chat box or the Q&A area. I see I've got some, hands raised and things, but just go ahead and answer or ask those questions in that Q&A box or that chat box. I also want to just let you guys know about a promotion that we're putting forward just in conjunction with all of this. So if you want to have a conversation with Leap, I know, Chuck has talked about Leap before. If you want to have a conversation about Leap with us, I will put a poll up here. You can go ahead and just answer whether or not you're interested in having that conversation. And we will give you a gift card for lunch. And if it's a good fit, you'll get $500 off of your Leap subscription. So go ahead and do that. And then while we're getting those in, let's see what we've got next here, Chuck. Okay. Some mentors recommend spiffs or contests to motivate our retail sales team. I'm not too keen on spiffs and contests, as we provide all leads and take really good care of them by passing off gimme leads. What are your thoughts?
So, and I'm glad that you asked this. I get this a lot. And so spiffs and contests, they're very, very important. But I want you to understand, when we talk about spiffs, sometimes it's you don't need to go and say, hey, at the end of the year, I'm going to give you $10,000 if you sell $1 million. That kind of spiff, anything that is yearly, other than earning a trip. I will say earning a trip is a little bit different, but yearly spiffs, if you say that, hey, you're going to get 1% if you sell 1 million, they don't care about that until November. So it's absolutely worthless. But if you're going to do a spiff, make sure that it is monthly. And if you got to go quarterly, just make sure you keep bringing it up. But you don't need to have big dollars in this. So one of the things that I've done in the past, and I really enjoy it, the sales reps really enjoy it, is sometimes it could be just small trinkets and it means something. I know I'm going to say something on this, so I'm going to mention some of these on here, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I'm just going to go through and I'm going to tell you what these spiffs are. So we've had some where it's, when you sell you have your first month where you sold $100,000 in a month. We get this keychain. It's the Brass Balls Award. I mean, it cost me 50 cents, but the guys fight like you wouldn't believe for that thing. We've had some where, once they hit $1 million, they get a plaque with the cat's rear end called the Cat's Ass Award. And again, that was all of $20 that we get. I mean, that we pay for this thing, and they fight like you wouldn't believe. But if I were to offer, hey, I tell you what, you sell $1 million and I'll give you 10,000, I'll give you 1%, and nobody talks about it. You can come in and count, $5,000 in front of somebody, and that lasts about 5 minutes. So it's, and I've seen many people that have the big checks, that's huge. I still think those are good, but again, it doesn't cost you anything, but it recognizes that sales rep. The other awards, it's funny when they get to carry them around, and for weeks we have guys talking about, hey man, did you see that Tim got the Brass Balls Award? For weeks. And so again, and here's where I realized this. I started working with a company and mentoring a company, well, everybody knows who they are, which is Home Depot. And so I went into a lot of the Home Depots where I'm doing these trainings, and I asked them, so do you guys make any spiffs? And this guy stands up and he says, you see these pens right here? And I said, yeah. He says, I earned every one of these pens. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, those have to be worth like 50 cents a piece. And I'm sitting here at that time, I'm giving my guys thousands of dollars just to do their job. And so I realized at that time that people don't, even though they say, hey, you can keep those things, I just want the money, that money is only going to last 5 minutes. So, I hope that answers your question. I also completely believe in trips so that your team can show their spouse, what they do and how successful they are. Any trip that I've ever been on, we're in the middle of the trip, and you can see inside of even my wife's face, and you can see in the wives of my sales reps how excited they are and how proud they are. And you could see in the sales reps' eyes that they're so thankful to get that opportunity to not only bring home a paycheck, but to show their spouse just how badass they are.
Love it. I love it. You're getting a lot of great feedback here. We're going to keep moving along. We got a lot of questions. What hiring platform have you been more successful on, or what are the steps that you've seen working when you are hiring the new sales reps?
So this is something I get daily. And so the places that I send people, I'm sure they're getting busier and busier. I noticed here about 2 years ago how much money it cost me to put something on Indeed, on Monster, on Career Builder, and then to have all these people come in and waste my time when all they want is to get especially right now, to get like a business card or something so they can keep their unemployment going. I mean, it costs so much money. And so what we did is we went out and found these recruiters. And Kate, are you okay with me talking about these recruiters? Okay. So we use Matt Snow with Pivotal. I really like him. I've also used Jessica Stahl with a company called, I think that her company it's not Engage. I'll find it, but her name.
Dr.
Yes,
Jessica Stahl.
Dr. Jessica Stahl, yes.
Yeah, I'll have to look up. I have her.
Ignite, that's what it is.
Ignite, yes.
Ignite.
She's fantastic.
Yes. So that's something that you might want to look at. But using a recruiter. Now, I'm going to tell you the people to look out for are the folks that want to charge you a percentage of salary. You want someone that says, okay, I'm going to charge you, like with Pivotal, he might charge you an upwards of like $2,600 for that month. And he guarantees so many candidates. And he's going to talk to him first before he sends them over to you. And I think Jessica is about $2,000. But again, I find out that I'm spending and $2,000 to $3,000 myself and just going crazy talking to opera singers and nurses. I don't know what it is about opera singers and nurses that want to get into sales. But again, they're just wasting my time. And when I found these great recruiters, I found a new, I didn't know what to do with myself. So that's what I would suggest.
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned Jessica. I'm really involved in National Women in Roofing and a lot of the women in the industry. And she actually spoke at one of the recent women's events. And she is, if I cannot speak it enough, she is an amazing person, but she also is really in tune with the fact that the industry is changing and it is growing. And, if you can get Jessica to help you be a part of that, that is an awesome thing to be part of. All right, let's just keep on going. Here's a quick one that I can answer. Will we have a copy of today's recording for reference? You will have access to it. It will be sent out once we make sure it's all good to go. What tips do you have around running an effective rehash program?
All right. So inside of rehash, there's so many different ways. And what I will tell you is to stay away from the product that fell off the back of the truck, or even this, and I've heard this so many times. We're trying to fill up a truck. And you know what? If we can get your product on there, we can make it cheaper. And stop lying to the homeowners. And they're going to know it. And so I'm going to go ahead and share with you my favorite way. There's a lot of people that, they're going to say, well, you got to buy the system and then we'll teach you. I'm going to teach you right here and now. The best way for rehash is to, first of all, the system itself is you have to have a rehash caller. Depending on how big you are, you have to have a rehash caller. If you're going to take one of your customer service people that just answers the phone and you're going to have them rehash, it's going to be a very half-assed rehash. But if you go out, you find somebody, and I'm going to tell you, they may not be the greatest person. You may not ever want them to answer the phone. We have one right now that is absolutely phenomenal, but I will never ask her to answer my phone. But man, can she get people back on board. She's great at it. And so you need one person to do it. But the other thing is you need to find someone to run these rehash appointments. Whether it could be your sales manager, it could be one of the owners, or you can bring in a separate sales rep. But whatever you do not send the same sales rep out there. It will never work. You'd never send the same sales rep unless they're asked for. If you call them up and they say, yeah, you know what, we've been thinking about this and I'm glad you called. We're ready to move forward. Go ahead and send Tim back out. Yeah, I'm going to send Tim. But if this is a true rehash, I'm going to send a rehash person that is trained in rehash. And you might think that this rehash person needs to be a top rep. They do not. They don't even need to be good, because all they really need to understand is how to go back in. Because if they allow you to come back in, they want the job. They want the job. All you have to do is not screw it up. And so, you have to come in with whether maybe it's, if you're selling windows, one of the things that we like to do is we come in with a different window, and they are hoping for a better deal. So we let them know, like, hey, I have another window. I'd like to share it with you. After everything that you went through and everything that you talked about, I think that you might like this. So all we need to do is come up with something else to say. And so that works out very well. But when you're going to call these people, you need to have a script and upwards of, I am the quality control specialist. I'm just simply calling to see how everything went. So, when you're calling them, they feel like, okay, you're just going to run me through a survey. Absolutely. Do you have 2 or 3 minutes to talk with me? And so the first question I have for is, how did it go? How did everything go? And they're going to talk. And did the guy show up on time? Great. Did he show you all the samples? Good. You're going to go through a couple more questions, but the last question you're going to ask is, so have you gotten your new roof yet? Have you gotten your new windows yet? Have you gotten your new bath yet? And when they say no, great. I want to share with you that we'd like to send somebody else out there with everything that you talked about. I'd like to get another set of eyes on what you have and see if there's something that we can help you with. So I didn't mention anything about discounts. I didn't mention that we're going to drop your price by 20%. So it just lets them know that, hey, I would just like to get another set of eyes. He's not going to be there very long at all. And so when we send somebody else out, you're typically going to have a success rate of 60 to 80%, mainly because if someone lets you back out, they want it. You just haven't, you haven't, either the sales rep that was out there before just didn't mesh well with them. Maybe they didn't like that person. They said he was nice enough, but for whatever reason, they either didn't believe him or didn't like him in some way, shape, or form. And so once they let you come back out, they're still interested, and it's easy to close those deals. So I hope that works. So obviously you're going to have your caller, you're going to have your script, and then of course have the rehash person that goes out and understands what they can offer.
Awesome. Thank you so much. A couple more. Currently in a difficult labor market, how do you feel morally and ethically about recruiting other companies' salespeople? I like this one.
It depends on how you're going to recruit them. I've recruited a lot of salespeople out of other organizations. Whatever you do, watch how you recruit. Don't poach them. I wouldn't go posting ads that, hey, if you, like we're here in Cincinnati. So, hey, if you work for Champion and you're sick and tired of Champion, come on over here. I mean, no, I wouldn't do that. But if somebody is interested, if that salesperson comes over to you, then absolutely, they obviously don't like working for that other company, whoever that might be, and they're looking for a change. But be very careful poaching people. We've done it in the past. You're going to ruin a relationship if you know that other owner. Even many times when someone comes over and we've interviewed and we really like this person, I'll even call that owner up and let them know that, hey, we're looking to hire Bill. And I know that he works for you right now. Obviously, he's looking for a change. I think he's just looking to see if the grass is greener. But I just want to give you a courtesy call. And that goes a long way with a lot of owners.
Yeah, that's a great question and great advice. Thank you. All right. How do you handle time off for straight commissioned salespeople?
Well, if they're straight commission, if they're W-2, then they would obviously have to, for us, we have lead handling policies. So inside that lead handling policy is also how they call off. Other than personal illness or, family matters, we need to have at least 3 days in advance so that any leads that have been set for that person, we can reschedule. Now, obviously, if they wake up sick, that's one thing. But, if they want to go on vacation, we just ask them, can you at least give me 3 days? So I've heard some companies that'll go out a week. Just give me a week, and obviously you can go and do whatever you need to do. Awesome. But make sure that it's in your handbook. It's not just something that's said.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we've got time for this one last question. I'm in home energy, conditioned and encapsulated, crawl space, as well as a whole home insulation business. Any specific advice on I can primarily utilize to continue building my skill and craft?
Do you? I would ask, do you own the company or do you sell? And I'm guessing maybe you just sell for the company if you're looking to work on your craft. But what I would tell you is that
he says, yes, just sell.
Okay. So what I would tell you is YouTube is a plethora of information. As long as you're looking to use it to learn, there is so much that you can use on YouTube. Now, be very careful you have to watch something. And if it doesn't seem like it's something you can use, move on. But YouTube is big. The other thing is go into the Facebook chat rooms and find the best that do exactly what you do and then fly out and meet with them. I don't care. You have to invest in yourself. The best sales reps, and these are sales reps and so many different organizations that sell anywhere from $3 to $7 million. And, they started out as, using their credit cards to fly out certain places. Maybe you're in roofing and you're a door knocker and you want to find out how to be the best door knocker. Fly out and meet with Ben Benchaka. He's one of the best people I've ever met. If you're in solar energy, there's a guy, and believe it or not, his name's Ricky Ricardo, but he's in San Diego. I keep hearing how he is literally the best solar sales rep in the country. And again, he's always willing to give his information away, as long as you're not in his area, but there's always folks out there. You got to find them and then fly out and spend a couple of days with them. Yes, your company's probably not going to pay for that, but take it upon yourself to do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I hope everyone enjoyed this presentation. Leap, we really like to be a resource of information. So I did go ahead and put 2 recent posts that we put out that have been really popular. We also have another webinar next week, actually with Market Sharp, one of our partners. So we went ahead and put that link to register there. That is November 17th at 11 a.m. Eastern with our CEO, Patrick Fingles, called How to Set Up Your Business for Success During Job Backlogs. So again, Chuck, thank you so much. I can't wait to see you next week, but thank you again. And it's been so helpful for everyone else. If you wanted to learn more about Leap, we will reach out to you soon. Otherwise, have a wonderful afternoon.